It's a brand new screen team right here on KWOC, being joined by my good friend Jake. And Jake has picked a great selection of movies for us to review this evening. A little bit later on, we're going to be doing the movie Blade Runner. And we're doing what, the director's cut or the original theatrical cut? What are we doing?
There's like 20 cuts of the movie, so we're doing the original theatrical cut. I think one of the big things that sets this one apart from every other cut is it has some... it's not the movie we're talking about, but it has narration by the main character, by Harrison Ford's character.
Cool. Also, a little bit later on the show, we'll be doing a movie that was originally supposed to be done by Stanley Kubrick, but Steven Spielberg took it over once Kubrick passed away. It's called AI. But first up, we're going to be doing a movie called The Hidden Fortress. Now, Jake, a few months back, you and I did a film called The Seven Samurai.
Yes.
Which was a hugely successful, popular film done by Kurosawa, correct?
That's right. Worldwide.
And, that movie was pretty much made into the Magnificent Seven, and so many different movies have gotten their inspiration from that particular movie. This movie that we're watching today, probably one of the most famous movies of all time, got its inspiration from The Hidden Fortress.
Yes.
And we're talking about A New Hope, the first Star Wars film. But before we get into those kind of similarities, what were your initial thoughts watching The Hidden Fortress?
I really enjoyed it. Right out of the gate, you can tell it's a Kurosawa movie because he just has a very visual style.
Yeah.
It's a lot of long lens shots.
Very epic looking, right?
Yeah, very epic looking. Like the opening shot, you have your two main characters, which are kind of lowly, kind of peasants. They were, I think, recruited to the battle and ended up to the war late or something like that. And they just had nothing, and they're just trying to get home. And then you see them, they're kind of fighting with themselves, and all of a sudden they're just afraid of something, and you never see it on screen until eventually you see some guys, some samurais on horses run by and just lay down this dude,
Yeah.
And, it's really cool. It's a really cool look, and that's like, there you go. That's not spoiling anything. That's the opening of the movie, and you have to see it to experience it. And the whole movie kind of has this really visual style. Seven Samurai, I think, even did it a little bit better, but Hidden Fortress, I really enjoyed the visual style. And once again, with Kurosawa, I think he had... I think he was really inspired by silent movies, so I think a very visual style helped him with worldwide success.
Yeah. And another thing that I think helped him with success with this film is a lot of his other films were serious in tone, where this one had a more comedic tone to it.
Yeah, it's goofy, and I think that comes from you've got this epic story, but it's being told from the perspective of two narrow-sided, narrow-minded kind of peasant thief kind of guys that are just out for themselves.
Right.
They even fight with themselves a lot.
Yeah.
So I think that really helps change the tone of the movie. I mean, I think you're seeing all the other characters from their point of view.
Yeah. And, a lot of the stuff that's going on in the film is very serious stuff, but like Jake says, you're seeing it from the comedic eyes of these two side characters, which is kind of like what you see in the movie Star Wars, A New Hope. You see the comedic elements of what's going on in a very serious, world and a very serious event through the eyes of R2-D2 and C-3PO. And George Lucas has even admitted, saying that he's gotten a lot of the inspiration for New Hope from The Hidden Fortress.
From The Hidden Fortress. Now, there are definitely that's the main similarity right there is the focal point, or the point of view you're telling the story from for A New Hope, which makes A New Hope very unique in all of the films so far, is you're telling it through the droid's point of view. You're following the droids through the movies. But I think it set up the tone for the rest of the movies for what Star Wars was going to be, with your relationship with your characters and things like that. The fact that they end up saving a princess, which is different princess characters totally.
True. But if you watch the opening scene of The Hidden Fortress, and you see the two, from the very beginning, you're watching the two comedic guys, the two thieves, and they're just bickering at each other, and all of a sudden they get split up.
Yep.
And then they meet up with each other.
They both end up getting captured and meet back up with each other.
I'm just saying, Tatooine, anybody?
That is the first 15 minutes of Star Wars right there. It's the first 15 minutes of Star Wars, almost pulled from cellulose from one movie and stuck into another.
I don't know. I don't have my computer in front of me to see his name, but the guy who plays the main samurai guy, he was also in Seven Samurai. He was just just very, very cool. He's just got that cool look about him.
I remembered his name because it was like Roku, Rokuroda or something like that.
Yeah.
He was, he kind of cool and collected. He knew how to play the minds. He knew exactly what he was dealing with when he first met the peasants.
Yeah.
It's almost like, okay, these guys are going to make my plan work.
Right.
These guys are going to work as a distraction. They're going to help me pull this thing off.
There's so many cool scenes too. A lot of the plot is trying to take the gold from one particular country to another, and they're trying to cross the border and stuff like that. And the way they smuggle the gold, I thought was pretty cool. Where they stick it in basically firewood.
It's stuck in firewood.
Yeah,
that's really cool. And they go from having to pack it on their backs and horses to carrying a cart, and it's kind of comedic how it kind of runs around. Eventually, the cart gets thrown into a fire, and they have to dig in the fire pit after that's over and collect it and carry it on their backs. And that's kind of the driving factor of the movie is the gold more than the princess, which is, everybody's got their own agenda.
Yeah.
Your two main characters, Matatashi and Tahe, I think that's what their names were. Your two main characters, they're out for themselves. Like, they want the gold, they want to set up a new life, they want to get away from all the war and conflict and everything. And, they're just kind of selfish and impatient with it. So they're just out for themselves. But they end up getting drawn back in over and over and over again. And then you've got, I'm just going to call him Roku, and then, his goal is military. He wants to get the princess back to her native land so she can, doesn't have to be in hiding anymore. The princess just, I don't know what she wants. She just follows her heart.
She seems angry all the time.
She's angry all the time. She follows her heart. Every one of her lines is screamed.
Even like the parts where she's like being funny. She's screaming the lines. You're like, oh my God. And they're all like, oh, they're like,
yeah, Princess Yuki is an angry woman, and it's funny because I don't know if it might have just been the way the actress wanted to portray this, but she ended up having to play a mute through a good section of the movie. I'm like, oh, thank goodness! Like, I know this is subtitled, but every one of her lines is just a shriek. So I mean, it doesn't turn away from the movie. It actually it's kind of endearing to the character.
Yeah.
But it's I don't know. I really, really enjoyed the movie, and they have some other characters that kind of come in and out of their group as the movie goes along, as they go through their journey.
Do you have to be a fan of foreign films to enjoy this film?
No, you just might have to be just a little open mind to the foreign film thing a little bit. Same with Seven Samurai. If you love movies and you love just seeing a good story told through a visual style, this is a good movie for you. And the language barrier, I mean, it's subtitled. If you have the DVD, a U.S. copy of the DVD, it's going to be subtitled.
Right.
So you're going to have to be reading, but you can pretty much tell what's going on because that, I guess, at the time in like kind of 1950s, and of course derivative of silent movies, it's very melodramatic acting, which I know that's a con for you.
Right.
But I think that is one of those things that lends it to being worldwide success, is because you don't necessarily have to be reading those subtitles to know the emotions of the characters. That's
a very, very good point. He's Jake. I'm Chris. The movie we just got done reviewing was The Hidden Fortress. If you get a chance, definitely give it a try. We both really, really liked the film. Coming up after the break, we're going to review the movie AI. It's coming your way next on KWOC.